What's up, everybody? Ruben Davis, Future Doc here, and in today's video, I'm gonna go through some specialties that I'm interested in and why. All right, coming into medical school, I was a little bit unsure. I didn't really know too much about all the things. I'm thinking I want to do like orthopedics, I want to do like sports medicine, blah blah, like everybody else. But now that I've actually gotten some exposure to some different specialties and just learn a little bit more about like the work-life balance and stuff like that, I have a pretty short list of some things I'm interested in that I'm going to shadow a little bit before third year to just get some experience with it, and then, go from there after, like actually doing rotations in these specialties. So let's jump right into it. Okay, so this first one is actually kind of a bit of a surprise, and I'm not too sure if I'm actually seriously interested in it, but my professors made it seem pretty cool, and that's pathology. All right, and I say I'm interested in pathology because one, it kind of leans into a lot of my strengths, and one thing I've learned in life is that you should do things that you're good at, um, and like sort of try to move towards those things that naturally come to you. And I'll say pathology in terms of just like the images, how to tell this versus that. Like I'm a very visual person, and I really like how that sort of caters to that. And just the lifestyle, y'all, is great. All right, it's usually very 9 to 5, not too laborious, not really on your feet all day. And there's a lot of different options that you have where you can do blood banking, you can do autopsies, you can do blood work in terms of like lab tests and stuff like that. There's a whole myriad of things. And pathologists are very crucial to the hospital in terms of diagnoses and causes of death and all kinds of things, So I just thought it was really interesting, and, a place that I didn't really have, much interest in or even really thought about. And I was like, maybe I might give it a little chance now. And also the pay is not, it's not bad either. It's not like top 5 or top 10 even, but it's not bottom 5 or 10 either. It's somewhere in the middle, around like 350, I think. So that's not too bad. So pathology is going to maybe get a little second look for me. All right, second is cardiology. And I also wasn't necessarily interested in cardiology, but I went to a lunch lecture with an interventional cardiologist, and I was like, this is pretty dope. In terms of just like what specialties I'm kind of interested in general, is like I want to be able to do something with my hands. It doesn't necessarily have to be surgery, but I want to have a procedural element where I can actually get in with my hands and make somebody's life better, by physically doing something. And so, pathology, you can kind of do that, not as much, but you can get in terms of like, taking slides and, all types of stuff. But, cardiology is, especially interventional cardiology, is, pretty hands-on, where, you're going up there doing stents, and, you're literally saving people who have heart attacks. So a lot of interventional cardiologists, like, you have to live within 30 minutes of the hospital, because once somebody gets in for a heart attack, you get that call, you need to be there, starting the procedure within 30 minutes. And so I thought that was just like super important. Now I will say there's like a stress element that I'm kind of noticing with it, where people's lives are like legitimately in your hands. I mean, that's for, all doctors, but like very more so seriously with that, because heart conditions, you see a lot of the worst in that setting. But I loved the like broadness of the procedures that you could do. I just love the importance of the procedures. Cardiac disease is like, one of the top killers, and, a lot of people are affected with it. So all of those things, and also it's top 3 in terms of earning potential. And that, also intrigues me as well. You got to think about those things when you're thinking about specialty. But I will say some negatives are the work-life balance of cardiology, and just the gunner kind of nature of it, because it is one of those really competitive subspecialties of internal medicine. So you got to do 3 years internal medicine, and then 3 years cardiology, and then if you want to do something like electrophysiology or interventional radiology, you have to do an extra fellowship. So it's like 7 years, 6 or 7 years, depending on what you want to do. But it's piqued my interest, and I'm intrigued. So that's definitely going to get another look for me. And the person who like runs the cath lab and stuff, he was like, just show up, put some gray scrubs on, show up and introduce yourself. But you can come to the cath lab whenever you want. So I'm definitely going to take him up on that. And I'm going to explore cardiology a little bit more. All right, next, GI, Gastroenterology, another internal medicine subspecialty. And I wasn't necessarily thinking about internal medicine, but the subspecialties are definitely intriguing me, and maybe even internal medicine at some point. We'll see how that goes. But GI, like I said before, I want to do things with my hands. It's definitely a very handsy, procedural specialty, but it's generally very not invasive and not too many risks associated with it. There's a lot of colonoscopies, endoscopies. There are other, sort of specialties that you can go into where you get, some of the more advanced scoping techniques. But it's very procedural and not super risky, and I like that. I like to be able to do those sort of things. And also I like, I don't know, you probably have noticed a trend. I like to think about the importance of the things that we treat in terms of its effect on society. So like colorectal cancer, for example, is, one of the top cancer killers in America. And so being able to screen people and, have someone take some of those preventative measures and catch some of these things early as a GI doc is something that excites me a lot. And just the procedure element, it'll be, a lot harder to get bored. I'm doing things with my hands. I shadowed a GI doc, and he was telling me about the work-life balance, and it's pretty good. It's much better than some of the other specialties that I have on this list, and probably not as good as pathology, but definitely better than cardiology. It's a good balance between clinic and procedure stuff, because I remember he was telling me he probably does colonoscopies and things maybe 2 days a week, and then clinic probably the rest of the days a week, and he could go pretty much 9 to 5 almost with procedures, because they're pretty quick, and the patients are in and out. So GI, very much so interested in me, and yeah, well, it'll definitely get a second look as well. I do need to do a little bit more research about some of the other things you can do with GI, but definitely has my interest. Lastly, the specialty that I'm interested in is urology. This is the most surgical of all the ones that I said. This is you actually do a surgical residency with urology, but it's also probably the one I'm most interested in at this point, just because I shadowed them recently and I had a great experience. Just everybody just seems like they enjoy what they do. The procedures themselves they tend to take less than 2 hours, a majority of them, depending on what you're doing, unless you're doing some cancer stuff that might be longer. But there's just a broad scope of procedures that you can do within urology, of specialties that you can do, or just as a general urologist, you can do a lot of things. And that's 5 years of residency, which is even less than cardiology, just general cardiology, which is 6, which is cool. It's also a top 4. I didn't say for GI. Also, GI is top 5 as well in terms of pay. Urology is also about top 5, I believe. I think it's number 5 for 2022. So checks that box. Work-life balance. Since it is surgical, it definitely, I guess, depends on the type of practice you have in terms of what your workload is. For residency, I know it's going to be pretty crazy because it is a surgical specialty. But I will say what makes it better is that the people in urology tend to be really dope people, really funny people. And so I like that aspect. They always say when you get into a specialty, these are your people kind of thing. And I kind of got that vibe. So we'll see how it goes. I'm definitely going to shadow urology again. The person that I'm kind of in contact with that was shadowing, they, were yeah, I'll let you know when we have some interesting cases that you can come join in on. And so yeah, I'll definitely do that. So urology, pretty dope. I will say, it was like, being a man myself and seeing some of these procedures, I was kind of like, cringe. In terms of just like, oh man, we sticking things up there like that. But I kind of got over it, like, as I'm just kind of like seeing it and learning it, and they're kind of giving me information. But yeah, it was a great experience. So that goes to my list. And probably what I'll find is that the more I shadow, the more my list grows. I'm just like, oh, all these things are interesting. I'm learning more. So it'll be interesting to narrow that down in kind of third year as I do rotations, and just the rotations I pick based off of my previous experience. But yeah, those are the 5 specialties I'm interested in: pathology, cardiology, GI, and urology. Oh, I guess 4. My bad. 4 specialties that I'm currently interested in, and that I'll be doing some shadowing in to gauge it. But obviously, still undecided. Still have a lot of time to pick. Comment down below, what specialties are you interested in? Can you see me in any of these specialties? What kind of doc do you think I could be? Comment that down below. I'm really interested to see what you guys think. As always, thank you for watching. Make sure you like, comment down below, like I just said, and subscribe. All right, we're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. All right. Appreciate y'all. Stay up. Stay positive. Future Dog out.